So it's more complex because there is a number of passages, and I know that there are folks who just leap to Psalm 139. You knit
Right.
me together in my mother's womb. Well, yes, but there's still this formed, unformed distinction, even
Mm.
in Psalm 139,
Oh, that's
which
true.
comes back to actually be present in the Greek Septuagint version of Exodus 21. Is the fetus formed or unformed if the mother is struck by someone, in a fight, and they force a miscarriage?
Hmm.
Now, let me back up a little bit. The Greek Septuagint is one of
Right.
the translations of the Hebrew
Yep.
original Old Testament that
Right.
was formed before, that was written before Jesus. The Sanhedrin seems to have approved of it,
That's the
and
Jewish Supreme Court at the time of Jesus, the
Yes.
Sanhedrin. Sorry, yeah.
thank you, Rob. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, and so they approved this translation along with Aramaic translations that were used in the synagogues along with the Hebrew text, because the kids don't speak Hebrew anymore,
That's
right? Like
right. Yeah.
they and so the rabbis do. So we want to come up with standard kind of language and interpretations of how to translate this into Greek and Aramaic. So the Hebrew version of Exodus 21 says basically, if the fetus is not considered a fully human person until birth and breath. Now,
Okay.
I know there is a different school of thought about how to
Yep.
translate that. I deal with that in my blog.
You
It,
do.
it's a weak argument. John Calvin was the first to come up with it, and
Hmm.
and the Puritans who settled in North America rejected John Calvin's argument, and
Interesting.
so it was not passed into the understanding at the time of the U.S. Constitution. And so, regardless of whether you think John Calvin has anything worthwhile to say, and I don't think his argument holds any weight, it is that the ancient Jewish position on the fetus is birth and breath constitute full personhood. There's a
Interesting.
gradual process. Many rabbis today believe there's 4 stages leading up to birth and breath and full personhood. And that raises questions then about the First Amendment, freedom of religious conscience issues for the Jewish community. The majority Jewish community holds this. Now, so that right away is really important. Also, Numbers chapter 5 is a situation where there's a husband who suspects his wife of having an affair, and so they both go to the temple, and she has to drink this water. And if she has had an affair, her belly gets bloated, and if she was pregnant, she has an abortion. So the husband in that case can initiate an abortion, and God performs it. That is really significant. And so the
Mm.
majority Jewish view is that abortion is never desirable, but there are moral
Right.
considerations like legitimate parentage that enter in. And so the state of Israel reflects that in their health policies and their abortion policies in different ways. But the coming back then to these two texts, Numbers 5, Exodus 21, it is so important that to recognize, especially in Exodus 21, when there is a forced miscarriage situation, birth and breath for the Hebrew Masoretic. And then the Greek Septuagint says, basically, look at the miscarriage, see how formed it is. And if it is formed enough and it looks like a human being, that it can be said to bear the image of God. That's really important because ancient Jews and early Christians said you're made in the image of God if you have a fully formed human body.
Hmm.
It's refers to our embodiment, because the way God appeared in the garden was in a human form. So I know that's really different than, let's say, the
Mm-hmm.
Alabama Supreme Court reasoning on IVF, which said like image of God from the moment of conception. No, that's actually not what, let's say, Irenaeus of Lyon said
Mm-hmm.
about in the 2nd century about what it means to be made in the image of God. It's not what this Greek Septuagint text says about what it means to be made in the image of God. It means to look human. And so
Mm-hmm.
the Greek Septuagint approach to the fetus is to say body and build is more morally discerning than the Hebrew Masoretic. And so we can discuss. I mean, it's very worthwhile to try to appreciate what happened there. How can it do that? And how can you be a Jewish community and operate with both translations at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
But this is really huge. In neither manuscript would we be able to conclude that conception is the place where we start human personhood.